video, we are going to see about something called as storage classes. So we have seen what is data types, right? So here we have something called as storage classes. Storage classes means it is going to define the scope, that is where your variables can be visible, and it is going to define the lifetime of your variable until when your variable is going to be live, and it is going to give you a memory allocation, that is where you can store your value of variable. So storage class is going to define the scope, that is, it is going to define the scope of the variable. And second one, it is going to define the lifetime of a variable. And third one, it is going to define the memory location. It is going to define the memory location. It is. Hope you understood. So this is how storage classes works. Okay, so there are some different storage classes. There is totally 4 different storage classes available in C program. Okay, so when you say it is types of storage class, we have 4 different classes, and first one is, it is auto class. Okay, we will say it as automatic, and we will call it by a keyword called as auto. Okay, by default, when you define a variable, it will be defined as auto storage class. Okay, for example, let us move into a program. Okay, so let me delete these things because we are not going to work with these things. So let's say I have something here. Okay, so structure of C program is there, and we know, and it need to return 0. So I'm returning 0 here. Hope everything goes fine. Okay, so now I'm just going to define a variable here. Say int num equal to 5. Okay, when I define int num equal to 5, it will be defined with a default keyword which is called as auto. Okay, so int num equal to 5, and also it is very similar to auto int num1 equal to 6. Okay, both this num and num1 are defined as auto. By default, when you define a variable, it will be defined with auto keyword. Okay, so what this auto keyword is going to do? Okay, so it is actually a default storage class. Okay, by default, it will be there whenever you are going to define a local variable. So it will be defined with auto keyword. Okay, so the next thing, that is, it is default 1, and next thing, and the memory of this variable which is defined as auto is going to be allocated in stack memory. Okay, memory allocation is in stack, it is, right? So stack will be created whenever a function or a block runs. Okay, and next one, when you say it is defined inside a block, then it will be live only when there is a lifetime of your variable which is defined as auto will have only lifetime until your block is getting executed. Okay, so the simple thing, the lifetime is going to be only during block execution, or we can say it is block execution, or we can say it is function execution. Okay, so this is auto storage class. Okay, so it is local to the block, and it exists until the function exists, and it will have a default value which is, it is going to carry a garbage value as default value it is. Okay, now let us move into the next one. So second storage class what we have is, it is a register storage class, and we will use a keyword called as register to define a variable under register storage class. Okay, so let us start with an example and then we will move here. Okay, So actually why we need to use this register keyword means, so as we know that automatic, there is auto keyword is going to create your variable inside a stack it is, right? So register is going to create your where there is memory inside your computer register instead of creating it inside your memory. It is, sorry, inside your stack memory, it is going to create inside a register of your computer. Okay, so let us try to come here and let me try to create a register int I. When I say register int I, when I say register int I, and if I need to get an input, let's say I'm using scanf. Okay, I'm just trying to use scanf, and if I need to get an input, I need to use percentage %d. That is, being it is an integer, I'm using a format specifier, and I need to use address of I, right? But here we can't able to get address. The reason behind this is because address will be there only when a variable or value stored in your stack memory. Okay, but it is stored inside your register, right? So register, you can't able to trace the address of register it is. So you can't able to use ampersand here, address of operator here. Okay. So if I try to print, okay, let me try to do this here. So I'm just having this one here, and I start with a loop. Okay, I'm starting to print with 1, and I'm going to print until I less than or equal to 5, and I'm going to use a post increment it is. And here I'm trying to print, it is printf. I'm trying to print an integer which is I, right? So when I try to run this program, okay, let me run this program. Okay, so let me open command prompt, and in this command prompt I need to move into my folder. So my file is in d colon, and in d colon, let me check where is my file is. Okay, so it is in d colon, it is in d colon YouTube programs. Okay, it is in d colon, and folder it is YouTube, and in another inside this folder I have a programs folder, and inside programs folder I have my file. So I need to compile my file first. So gcc, and my file name is test.c, and it is compiled successfully because there is no error. So I need to run the file. So it is a.exe to run the file, and it is going to print one. Why it is printing hello world? Because I didn't save the file, I think so. Yes, I didn't save this one. So I'm just saving this one, and I'm moving to command prompt, try to compile it again, and I'm trying to run the file. It is going to print you 1 2 3 4 5. Yes, that. But here this variable is stored in our register, it is not in your stack memory. Okay, so when you need to know the characteristics of register, so let's say the first characteristic is it is having a lifetime of block it is, that is, it is local to the block where it is initialized or declared. Okay, and next one, it will be there until lifetime will be there until your block executes, until your block executes. And next one, we cannot able to use address of operator with this register because it is stored in register, right? And if your computer doesn't allow to store it in register, if no register is allowed, it will take as auto. Hope you understood. So this is second storage class and third one is there. So third one is static storage class. So there is something called as static storage class. So we will use a keyword static to define a static storage class. Okay, let us let us try to explore it first and then we will move into the characteristics of static. So we can define a variable as static inside a local, that is inside a method, or as a global variable. Okay, we can define a variable as static in local and also in global. Okay, so now let us try to do it in local it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a method. Okay, so let's say this method is not going to return anything. Okay, it is a method, and inside this method I'm going to have a static variable, static in count, and I'm going to start it with 0. Okay, so once it is done, I'm going to increase count by 1. Okay, after increasing, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to print the count from here. I'm just going to print the count from here, right? So yes, so after that I'm closing this method, and inside main method I'm trying to call the method counter here. I'm trying to call this method. Okay, I call this method thrice. Okay, now you can see that when I try to define count as static, if I try to run this code, what will be just imagine what will be the output you'll get. So when I try to define a count inside this counter, it will be local to this one, right? So anyway, whenever I'm trying to print, it need to print 1, right? 3 times it need to print 1. But when I define it as static, it is going to have a scope of until the program. Okay, so when I try to compile it and when I try to run it, it is going to print 1, 2, 3. Hope you understand. Count will be there until your program is getting executed, right? So let us hope you understood what is count is. Okay, now um, let us see the characteristics of um, static it is. So when you say the scope, that is where you can use the count variable, you can use only inside that method where it is defined. Okay, you can't able to take that out and you can use. But the lifetime is, it is going to be there. Lifetime is until you end your program. So it is going to carry the value or increased value or decreased value or static value until your program ends. Okay. And next one, by default, when you define a variable with static, it is going to carry that is, when it is int, it is going to carry default value as 0 it is. Hope you understood, right? So there is one more class, which is external storage class. It is external storage class. We will define it with extern keyword. So external storage class is something different. That is when I need to access a variable from another file, I can use this extern keyword. Okay, for example, let's say I'm creating one more file here. Okay, I'm creating one more file here. So I'm just saving it as let's say it is all files, and I'm trying to save it as test1.c it is. Okay, I'm saving it as test1.c. And in this file, what I'm going to do is I'm just trying to create a C file it is. So include stdio.h. right? Include stdio.h, and the int main is the method. So we can't able to create two main methods, right? So it is going to be secondary file. So I'm just having a variable here, int num equal to 10. Okay. And I'm going to define a method here, void display. Okay. And this method is going to print. This method is going to print something number equal to, let's say it is going to print the global variable what we have defined. Okay, that is num here. Hope you understood. Num is defined outside method, so it is a global variable, right? So it is going to print num. So this is file one it is. So in this file, what I'm going to do is, anyway, this is going to execute it, right? So I'm removing this, and in this file, I need to use that num variable here. So for that, I'm going to use an extern keyword, that is to use a variable from another file. I'm just going to use an extern keyword, and I am trying to use int num here. That is, num is created in a different file and we are using it here. Hope you understood. So for that, we are using external keyword. Okay, so in external keyword, I am trying to print. So let's say what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this line and I'm going to print it here. Right. So for this, if you need to use it in another file, you need to define it as global, as I have defined it in test one. And we can use extend keyword to access the global variables from another file. So if I try to run this, hopefully it is going to print us, it is going to give us the output what we needed. Wait, I'm getting undefined reference to num it is. What is undefined reference to num? It is int num equal to 10. Okay. Extern int num, and we are trying to use, okay, everything is right. Then what is the problem with and num equal to 0, num, everything is right. Hopefully it will run. Undefined reference to num. Yes, because we need to create both the files in the same. Just give me a minute. I will open it in a Visual Studio Code and I'll show you, because we need to open both the files in the same folder. Yes, I have opened in VS Code it is. Okay. So now I need to run this file. Okay. I need to run this file as a package because we have two files, right? So I need to run. So I'm just compiling it as GCC. My first file is test.c and second file is test1.c, and I need to open, sorry, it is open as program.exe. So it is going to be converted into program.exe, and we need to run program.exe. So now I will get that what we have defined in test1 is printed in test.c, right? Hope you understood. So now the thing is, what are all the characteristics of external storage class? So when you define it as external, scope is going to be global. That is, you can use anywhere in your program, right? And lifetime is going to be lifetime is till end of your program. And next one, that is default value when you define an integer as It is a default value when you define an integer is going to be default value is going to be 0, right? So these are the four storage classes available in C program, and let us see the operators type in our next video. Bye bye friends.